The Spoken Token is a proud member of the Pod Studio One podcast network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the big show. This is Larry Neal.
Hey, and I am Alex Wallace.
And we are the Spoken Token podcast. Mr. Alex, sir, how are you doing?
I am doing so well. Oh, man, I haven't heard your Captain Kirk voice in a long time. Needless to say,
I've been playing a lot of Star Trek Online. I
haven't made fun of your Captain Kirk voice in a while either. So, yes.
Well, we ain't nobody missed that.
Yeah.
So what's going on, man? Oh, you know what? I'm going to jump right in this time. I'm doing great. Everything is fine. So I'm driving. Skipping all the pleasantries. Yeah, I got to get right to it this time. So, I'm out checking out stores. I moved to a different area, and I'm checking out board game stores. And I walk into a store, and it's mostly, it seems like a nice shop, but it's mostly for, sports memorabilia. Now, they have a side room in the store that's clearly set up for Magic and 40K. They do a lot of that kind of stuff. Not many board games. So I'm walking around trying to see, if I can, because the place was pretty nice, friendly atmosphere. So, man, can I salvage any reason to come here? It's got a lot of dice, a lot of sleeves. Okay. So I'm walking through and I see one little lonely rack of board games. I mean, it was a lonely little rack of board games.
All the boxes have that beautiful kind of like sunburnt.
Man,
you know how boxes get sunburnt? They lose their color and they turn like sort of that ashen gray. Because they've been sitting in the window.
That's exactly what it is. But these weren't in the window.
Every board gamer who's been in a board game store is like, oh, that game has sat in a window, hasn't it? They know.
Forever.
They know. Yes.
They're not in the window now, but they're sitting on this rack, and the games are like 5 inches apart. So it's like 3 games per shelf, man. You don't have a lot of games. And I'm like, oh, this is sad. And I walk right past it, and the people can't see it, but you're about to see it. I'm going to do it to the camera. This is exactly what I did. I'm like, and I took that much time, and I stood before I realized I was saying to myself, you need to grab it. Don't just keep looking at it, grab it. So I grabbed it and I'm thinking, oh, this has to be a demo box. So like a Christmas present, no joke, I'm standing there shaking it to make sure. I'm like, this is the actual game? And I sent Alex a picture, and I posted it on Instagram, but so those of you who follow us know what it is. But I found an expansion in Shrink, not the Sands of Alkaline, but the Jungle expansion for one of my favorite games ever, probably my favorite adventure game, and that's Runebound 2nd edition. And it's got that ashen gray look that Alex was just talking about. But so I'm sitting there thinking, and he wants $39 for it. And I know, even without my good friend here, Alex, who's definitely on top of the secondary market, I know that this thing is worth far more than that because I tried to get him when Third Ed came out and was like, I'm not spending an average of $150 for those big box expansions. Dadgummit. No, I'm not going to do it. So now, that's what I was, just before we came on, that's what I was like, it's still sitting in Shrink downstairs because of Alex now, I'm thinking, well, should I sell it? Maybe I should sell it. But I'm like, I'll never see it again unless I pay the $100+ for it.
Yeah.
I found one on eBay.
I understand.
For $199.
Whoa. Oh.
Yeah, like average. That's in Shrink. There were a lot of them out of Shrink that said they were, good condition. They were getting $1.25. But I found a couple. I found 2 on eBay. Other ones that said they were new in Shrink. They wanted $200 for them.
What's the name of it again?
This one that I have is the Jungle one. You would ask me that.
I would.
Let's see. The Jungle expansion. Runebound.
Just Jungle expansion. I think that's what you need to call it. I just need the Jungle expansion, please.
2nd Ed. It is. There it is. The Mists of Zanaga.
Mists of Zanaga. That sounds fun.
Yeah, it does, and it's one of the it's tied for the highest rated currently for what that's worth on BGG because they did 5 big boxes.
Yeah, my man.
You see it?
Oh yeah. No, you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean.
Now you see why I was shocked.
Yeah. Gee whiz.
I paid
like,
retail for it,
and it's
last week.
Wow, it has only shot up. I mean, at one point, but in the last 2 years, that sucker has shot up.
Yeah, I was so. And I'm going to be honest. I know that Third Ed did its thing and it got some expansions, but I feel vindicated that Third Ed is a superior edition. Because Second Ed, I'm sorry, is a superior edition. Because when Third Ed dropped, theoretically, these prices should have plummeted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, they wouldn't have gone back to retail because now they're collector's items. I get it. But it stayed consistently high because when people play them for this flavor of game, I'm not saying that this is better than modern games of its type if you don't have heartstrings attached to it like I do. But for this type of game, people who like adventure games, you sit down with these, it's like, this is really good.
So the thrill of the chase hit, didn't it? Like,
not the
thrill of the chase, but the just that thrill of discovery when you found it. I mean, it's just
yeah, because I wasn't looking for it and definitely wasn't expecting. I mean, I got into Roombound Second Ed close to the end of its life cycle, but I can honestly say that every one of these big box expansions came out first print run while I was in it. So I kept thinking to myself, being a little bit younger into the modern board game hobby, I was thinking I had time to get them, not understanding that it was going to be, they were going to completely wipe the decks and do a third ed, which was going to make my second ed stuff completely obsolete or hard to find or completely out of print.
Yeah.
And so, because I had this one and I pretty much had all of them, Sands of Al-Khalim, the Ice one, all of them in my hands at one point in a store physically and was like, I got time to get it. So all of those times came back and it's like, don't leave it this time, Bubba. So that's been my thing. Man, it's just still sitting on the table and
I'm
excited
for you.
I want to break the seal on it and play it, man. I love that.
Do it. Now, at this point, I mean, so you pitch it on the secondary market, you make $80. What are you gonna?
$80. So I wouldn't sell it for less than $200. That's what it's going for. It's new and shrink.
Well, I mean, okay, all right. So, I'm saying you'd make 80, but you pay. All right, so you paid 40, so 120. Okay, so all right, you make 200. All right, so you make $160 off of that. Is there an experience that you're going to?
Ooh, good question.
That's going to fill what this does exponentially, because at that point, like if you're spending $200 on something.
Well, I can't even answer that question. It's a good question.
So I mean, that's something,
really
and as in the secondary market, that's something you got to think about. Like when you come across something like that, you could turn around for a big profit, especially something you're like, it's exciting and it's a great deal. I'll get it. But then the question becomes, okay, and this, I know you and we've kind of gone back and forth with the monetary value type deal, but this is a perfect scenario of is it going to be one of those things where you let this go out the door, you've got $200 in cash in hand, and the experiences that you will purchase to replace this are not what you wanted, and you'll miss it and be like, man, I really wished I had that? Or is it like, oh, I love this game, this was a cool thing to have, but actually at $200, you're able to bring in new experiences that substantially meet your need and or desire for board gaming. And so that's the question you're going to have to sit with. And I know
my answer is no.
And I think that's the right call for you, because you enjoy the completion of something. You enjoy the age of things matters to you. Knowing that it's out of print. So for me, it's more of a will it get played? And that's less important to you. And I think that's valuable for everybody when they're considering moving through the secondary market. And I think that's what you and I do so well, is that we're good foils for each other. You're like, no, this is a diamond in the rough. I'm going to keep this. This is something special. We will not see this again. And I'm like, well, but I won't play it. And so I'm ready to move on, and I'm looking to replace it with an experience that I know I'll have more time with and that. But that's super cool, and what a lucky find. I know that is.
It's the first time something like that has happened, and it's so funny because people always talk about their finds, when they're thrifting or they just happen across it, and I'm always a little secretive, man, that's so lucky, but because I never consciously do that.
Right.
I never consciously go looking. It's like I'm not even looking. I'm looking for what I want that's modern, that's new. This is what I'm going for. And so to run across it, I'm there for a totally different reason.
Yeah.
Not even there for that, and I had almost walked out of the store. So that was another lesson, because I had a purpose for being there and I hadn't quite fulfilled it. First blush, I was like, oh, this isn't really a board game store at all. Yeah, I'm not going to even take the time to do what I said I was going to do. I'm just going to just leave. And so let that be a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't, and I walked around in there because it literally took me a second to even register what I was looking at. It's like, wait, what am I seeing? Is that? I mean, I wanted to do the cartoon thing. It's like rub my eyes. Is this what I think it is? So it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool moment. Gaming wise, it's largely dominated everything. I did get the Rise of Ix for Dune, so I'm super excited about that.
Yeah.
I've already got it sleeved because I had too many sleeves. The way I'd sleeve the base game in the purple and the spice colored sleeves, I got plenty left over, so I'm super excited about that. So I'm super excited and happy about that too. But I mean, everything was just overshadowed. I got the Borg expansion for Star Trek Ascendancy. Finally, I've been wanting to get that one because that enables solo play.
Mm-hmm.
So or two people, so you can play because it's normally 3 and up.
Mm-hmm.
But that lets you play it either solo or 2 people play against the Borg. So I'm super excited about that too. But again, everything that came in is just overshadowed by Mist of Zanaga, man, all the way. So, man, anything else turning for you, or do we just hop right into it?
I think the newest thing for me is it's in the episode proper. So let's get talking about some games. And
what a teaser that was! That was almost professional.
That's right. Let's hit him with the intro.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Spoken Token Podcast. This time, episode number 110. Join us as Alex and Larry get into the big art show. They discuss favorite game-inspired art, games featuring art, their favorite artists, and more at length. Not to leave anyone out, they also give a favorite game designer and extend a very valuable recommendation for one of their favorites by their chosen designer to pick up and play when you finish the podcast, and so much more. So, sit back, relax, straighten up that picture, and turn us up as we join your hosts, Alex Wallace and Larry Neal. All right, and we are back, Mr. Alex.
We're back. Yes,
You know what time it is? You know what time it is?
Oh, I'm ready. It's been a while. It's been a
while, but we're going to do, around here, we don't do top 10s.
No.
We don't do top 5s.
Nope.
That's too much fluff.
Too much fluff. It's just
we
fluff.
get the cream of the cream of the cream.
That's true. And if you are lactose intolerant, too bad.
Too bad.
Drink
you some lactate, you'll be all right.
That's right, because we take
the top 3. That's it.
That's just it. And we don't do lists that are good.
No.
We do lists that are
super good. You are so slow with that. Why are you so late with that?
I feel like you are a little late on it. Like you're like, I'm going to throw it off and make it Alex's fault. So no, but yeah. So we haven't done this in a while, but we're going to do a super good list. Actually, we're going to be doing 2 super good lists this episode.
That's true.
It's a super good list bonanza. Yes, 2 for the price of 1. That's just how super good it is. So, like every good online recipe site, I like to give a little bit of a story before I give my super good list. And here is where this list kind of originated from. And if you're one of those that just likes to skip straight to the recipe, I'm sorry, too bad. But as I mentioned last time, on our previous episode, I've actually kind of started a new community board gaming group at a local pub. And our first meeting, we had 2 people. Actually, technically, we had 4. But,
that's enough to play a game.
It was. We did. And then we had a 5th person show up for about 30 to 45 minutes. We set up Maglev Metro, and then the 5th person showed. So it was me and a buddy of mine, and then he brought his sons, so they didn't really have a choice. But we were going to play Maglev Metro. They weren't really having it, but we were going to. My friend and I were going to play it anyway.
Yes,
and
sir.
Then a 5th person showed up, and we ended up playing Isle of Cats Explore and Draw, which is the new expansion from Isle of Cats. And hey, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. But needless to say, we went from 3 actual gamers to 8 this past week. And there were actually 3 games going on at once, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But as the night was sort of ending up, the number of people sort of dwindling, and it ended up just being me and 2 other people. And we played a game called Sub-Astral. And it's from Renegade. It's fairly new. I think it came out 2021. And just joking around, I was like, man, this is really nice art. It's outdoors. It's got to be Beth Sobel. Absolutely. Again, just being smug and, obnoxious like I am. And of course I was right. I'm not knowing anything. So it was, and it got me thinking, Beth Sobel, I really, like, she has had some, she has been a part of some really major games as of late. Her art has. And I just started thinking, man, there's quite a bit of her stuff that I really enjoy. And so I pitched it to Larry and I said, you know what? Here's what I want to do. I want to do a super good list where we pick an artist and we identify our top 3 favorite games that contain their art. Well, top 3 favorite games that contain their art, so actual, like, based on their game, and then a top 3 list of our favorite art from that person, not necessarily taking the game into account. So my artist is going to be Beth Sobel. And Larry, who is your artist of choice?
So it was super close for me, and it was so close that I wasn't really sure until pretty much time for us to get started. But my list, I've got a winner, and then I have, because we're going to use the same artist for both lists.
Yeah. Do you know who you're doing? Or you
I do.
just
I do.
Well, you're drawing it out. I mean, what?
Of course I am. You said Larry, right? You said Larry, right?
You're right. I did.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna do what I do.
This will be a bear to edit.
So if you just leave it alone, it wouldn't have been. And so I have a winner that I'm going to use for both because we won. But then I have a runner-up that's I'm going to mention. And then I did some special mentions because I'm going to get into that with a different portion of the show that we're going to keep talking about art. So mine ended up being, it was really close, but it did end up being Kwanchai Moriya. It was pretty much a dead heat between he and Ian O'Toole. It was a dead heat. With the caveat understanding that I knew you were going to pick Beth Sobel. They probably would have been the first three of the 4. When you say art, I think of 4 current ones. Mm-hmm. I would add Fernando Suarez to that group.
See, and I would add Vincent Dutrait.
Yeah, and so, but it ended up being Kwanchai. So I'm going to do Kwanchai, but I've got the categories built out for a couple of other people, and I'll do those quick. I won't do those as long as we're going to do the main part.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Well, I will start. And so first I'm going to do my list of my favorite art from a game artist. And so these are 3 games, not necessarily based on the actual game themselves, just the art in the game.
3, 2, 1?
Yeah, I'll go 3, 2, 1. And so this is, of course, my artist is Beth Sobel. Number 3 for Beth Sobel. This one's a little caught me by surprise, but once as I did my research, I found it out and I had to put it on here. But that would be various art from Lord of the Rings, the card game. So apparently Beth got her start working for Fantasy Flight and has actually created art for a number of the Lord of the Rings, the card game cards. So that would be my number 3 is the art from that. So that was kind of a general thing. I know that it's not all hers, and I'd probably be hard pressed to find, her actual pieces, but it still was. They all have a pretty similar aesthetic, and which I enjoy, and I've actually, kind of caught me at the right time because I've really been diving back into this and do really enjoy this art. All right, so my number 2, and this is where most people would know her from, kind of what sort of put her on the map, and that is Wingspan. So she is the singular artist for Wingspan, and I don't even remember how many different colored pencil drawings she did of birds for Wingspan. But they're absolutely gorgeous.
Yep.
I mean, almost photorealistic in their presentation, but they're done with colored pencils. And I will have to say that the art is what distracted me from the game. Kept me from really coming to grips with my true feelings about Wingspan.
Well, your copy is downstairs in my library, so I'm going to go ask it if that's the truth.
Yeah, well, no, because I thought I loved it. I thought it was great. But what it really came down to is it was just so beautiful. It wasn't a great game for me. It's a good.
It got Alexed.
It did get Alex. It did get Alex. And then my favorite art, and this is a little weird, but you know what? As I walked through and kind of looked at all of her work.
Herbaceous.
What'd you say?
Herbaceous.
No, not herbaceous, but close. Arboretum. I like it.
Listen,
I am a sucker for ducks and trees. Ducks and trees, man. And so Arboretum is such a lovely game. And I just there's just something about those trees looking at it when they're sort of put out on the game table in the grid that they are, or the little trails that you form. It's so relaxing. It's beautiful. But yeah, and again, I think the reason I put Arboretum at the top is not necessarily because of the detail of the drawing, but it's the unity of all of the cards put out together. How beautiful it just looks, how peaceful it makes me feel. And so when I think of my favorite art, I have to say that because I just love trees so much. And I think...
Gotcha.
Yeah. So also, Arboretum is a great small box game for those of you who are looking for things to sort of fill out your collection.
Hey, are you jumping ahead to the later section?
No. Actually, Arboretum did not make my top 3 of her games, but I will say Arboretum. It was real close. It was
cool.
It's an honorable mention.
Gotcha. You know what's funny? My number one piece from Kwanchai is pretty. It's the same. But I will do the same order. I'll go 3, 2, 1, and of course I'm talking about Kwanchai, Moriya, and my number 3 piece is his cover to Overlight, which is a TTRPG put out by Renegade Games, and just the iconic cover of the character, the female character standing to the side, holding the sword. It's just such a strong image, and it's just so evocative, which is the thing that I like about Kwanchai. Period. The way he draws the art that's evocative of, if you're not even into the canon or you don't want to use the canon of the story, you can use your own, because that piece alone is telling his story. I think that's one of the things I love about his art. And I know that art typically is designed to do that, but not every artist or piece of art does that for everyone. And a lot of artists don't do that for me. I look at the art, I can appreciate the art, but it doesn't evoke me and move me to a story, and Kwanchai's does. And that piece definitely is one of them. My number 2 piece, which was my number 1 piece, when you first said this, it's the first piece I thought of, no joke. So amazingly, it lost out in the end. But the Days of Ire cover, with just, again, so iconic, with the partisan holding the rifle and with the wind blowing her hair and the sash. It just, if that's one that I'm still looking for a piece, I would definitely put that one up. That cover, if I could get the cover as a piece of art, the board game cover, I think it's just fantastic. It's so iconic. There's so much sorrow there and so much resolve there, and she's holding a rifle, but it's not violent. It's this is where it's come to. This is where I have to be. This is what I have to do to protect my home and everything I love, which is what the game is about. But it shows that, just that one photograph, which I thought was, picture or painting, I should say, is pretty amazing. The piece that beat it out is behind me in a tube, and I have to go and get a frame for it. I purchased the art from the BGG, which is eventually what put him over the top, over Ian O'Toole, to win the overall spot. And that's the whimsical piece that he did for the BGG Artist Series for Galaxy Trucker.
Yeah, that's a fun one. That's actually pretty iconic piece of art, too.
It really is, man, with the driver sitting in the truck. She's got her hand up on the armrest, and she's driving, and it's, from the side picture, and it's just like, ho hum, another everyday at work. Again, very, very, like you said, it's iconic, but very evocative of, it's Galaxy Trucker is the title. and that's what you think of. That's what you think of as a trucker, but it's Galaxy, so it's space themed. The colors and everything is just right. And again, Kwanchai is all about telling a story in that whole picture. It's a narrative of that photograph. And so again, like I said, I bought the print, and I have the print, and that one will be up probably here in the office. I was additionally going to put it with the games, but I think I'm going to put that one in the office because I want to look at that one. I want to see that one. There's another piece that I found I'm going to talk about here in a little bit when I do my other people that I'm probably going to put up here in the office too. It's just mind-boggling. I meant to send you the link to look at it. It's not from Kwanchai, it's from somebody else. But anyway, those are my 3, 2, 1 for Kwanchai for the art. I guess I'll do the games first.
Okay.
Since you did the games, I'll go in the same order. I'll go 3, 2, 1, and it is for the games that I appreciate of Kwanchai Moriya's or that have his art in them. And number 3 for me is Bosk, which is a game that Alex and I got to play, and it's about taking a walk and you're using its area control with leaves, and the wind blows the leaves, but just the front cover of that, taking a nice fall walk in a national park somewhere or out in a wooded area or just in a park period. Again, so evocative. It brings me right to having done that. This is something that I've done. It's not like flying a space truck, or being a warrior, fighting in an RPG, or even fighting in a civil war in my own hometown, which is what the other 3 are about. This is something that I've done. So this story I know well. It's both an external and an internal story that I've gone through. So Bosk coming in at number 3 is really strong, but I mean that's my number 3. My number 2 is going back to the fantasy, if you will, and of course the sci-fi, and that is that bogglingly astounding cover for Kepler 3042.
Really?
And it's the game. Obviously, the game is above because we're doing the games now. Yeah, Kepler 3042. I love it. I really enjoy Bosk, but I like Kepler 3042 even more. The cover, it just blows me away. But the game is fun. It really is. It's my kind of deal. It's a hex movement thing, but it's a little bit lighter. It's light enough to sit in front of people who are gamers, who are true gamers, but maybe don't want to do hex war games. They're like, hex war games is one step too dry for me. Kepler has the hex. It has that flavor, but it's got a good enough feel to it and enough other mechanics where it's like, oh, no, yeah, well, we can play this one. And then my number 1 game by Kwanchai with Kwanchai Moriya art for me is honestly, it's the original Dinosaur Island. I love that game to pieces. You will pry it from my cold, dead hands. As much as I love Dinosaur World and everything that's come out since then that they've done, and I think they're a very good game. That original game, just the gameplay of that one, the gameplay loop, I love Jurassic Park, the movie. I do. I love it. I'm not as big a buff as you are. I can recognize that it wasn't my Star Wars. Star Wars was my Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And I get it. Jurassic Park was a few, but I can't play that game. I can't get the box out without hearing the theme song. Well, but again, every piece of that art is meant to invoke the idea of that movie. Yeah, and it is so, and I love the gameplay wise. I like it better than these 2. I think both Bosk and Kepler are strong games, but I do believe Dinosaur Island is a stronger game. For me, it is personally anyway. So that's my number 1 game, Kwanchai Moriya art, Dinosaur Island. Okay. Your game, sir.
All right. Moving on to games that feature art by Beth Sobel. My number 3 is actually she was one of the artists, but that is Viticulture Essential Edition.
Oh,
yeah. So she did a little. Actually, she's mentioned on every one of the expansions, from the original Viticulture to the Essential to Tuscany Essential and all of that. So I love it. Viticulture. We've talked about it, of course, a lot here, but especially in the older days, because it's one of those games that I just played a lot of. It's a
great game.
It is. It's that perfect blend of length, meat, but also still easy enough for newer players to kind of get involved with. The ramp up is intuitive and so yeah, it's just a good one. It's a good, solid, meaty game.
Yeah, I agree.
So next up for me was a surprise, but after I sat and thought with it for a while, is Sub-Astral. So Sub-Astral is the game that I played last week. It's one of a newer game from Renegade. I want to say so on the most part, it's a tableau builder.
Yep.
It's not difficult by any means. There's actually quite a bit of randomness involved and luck. But the more I thought about it, we sat and played this game for over an hour, and it was so relaxing. And what it kept reminding me of games that you would play with a 52 card playing card deck. Like you never really get frustrated at the game because there's still a level of luck from the shuffling involved. Now, you can make smart choices and you could play defensive, but I mean, a bad turn that had nothing to do with you is possible, and the great equalizer. Games are quick enough that even if you lose, you're still you're willing to play another one. A typical game lasts 15 minutes. The art is just really calming. It has this beautiful line of clouds that you sort of play the thing, all the cards down on. It's not a difficult game to learn. Scoring is a little obtuse in the beginning, but then as you play it, it makes sense why scoring is done that way, and it actually it then drives how to play the game at that point. And so I kept coming back and going, man, I could play this with my parents. Oh, I could play this with Cynthia. Oh, I could play this with the boys. And it's just and I thought, and I want to play this because it's just simple, it's clean, it's easy to pick up and just play and explain. So that's Sub-Astral. Forgive me, I don't know right offhand who the designer is.
Terrible.
And the designer of Viticulture is Jamey Stegmaier. So Sub-Astral is designed by Ben Pinchback and Matt Riddle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my number 2. And then my number 1 game featuring art by Beth Sobel is Coldwater Crown. Isn't that fun? I didn't realize that was her. Yeah,
I love that game.
I know. And it's just
I love it so much I own your copy.
I know. And it's not that I don't. I mean, it was again. It was I just needed to clear out some space. I didn't want it to go far, and so it ended up with Larry. But I mean, when you talk about
kind of far.
It went because you moved on me. But just how
it's so good. It's so good.
Again, guys, go check this one out and go listen to some of our older episodes. We've talked about this. The designer is Brian Suhre. And they do have came out with a second one. I can't remember. But Coldwater Crown is definitely the better of the two.
It's astoundingly good.
And it does such a wonderful job of recreating Freshwater Fly. That was the other one.
Oh, and that's actually the one I have. I don't have your Coldwater Crown. I have your.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I got rid of Coldwater Crown because but still.
Did she do Freshwater Fly also?
I don't think so. No, someone else did Freshwater Fly. But no, Coldwater Crown. It's just a fun fishing game. You've got baits and lure. Your baits are actually particular different colors of gems, and then you go to different places and are able to attract certain fish, and then it's ultimately a set collection game. It's a fun little one. And I mean, that reminded me, I forgot. Yeah, I love Freshwater Fly too, but that's not Beth Sobel.
Yeah, that's the one I have.
Yeah, that's the one where you're going up and down the stream and you're trying
fly fishing. It's brilliant.
Brilliant. Actually, time out. Wait, I'm wrong. I'm so sorry. I do enjoy Coldwater Crown, but I think when I was making this list, I actually was thinking of Freshwater Fly. So I've completely screwed up my own list. I would play Freshwater Fly over Coldwater Crown every single time.
I'll allow it because Freshwater Fly is astounding. It is. That's what all of my comments about it being astoundingly good apply to Freshwater Fly.
I got them. Yeah, but they're both about fishing, but Freshwater Fly is the game you want to play. It's
Yeah.
it's a yeah.
Well, hey, man, we're here. Let's mention it. That artist is Daryl T. Jones.
Yeah, Daryl T. Jones. Daryl, attaboy. Attaboy.
So what I want to do, it's funny that we did that. What I'm going to do, I want to quickly mention my runner-up and my special mention. My runner-up was, like I said, was Ian O'Toole, and it was really close. It was going to be between him and Kwanchai, and Kwanchai's Galaxy Trucker piece won out. But I'll run through these super quick. His art, number 3, was the Nemo's War cover. Lisboa is the second place cover, and that whole game is just astounding.
Oh, Lisboa, yeah, and that's actually I want to put a pin in this because I want to talk about this afterwards. But the marriage of graphic design with artistry, and I think Lisboa is a master class in
Over
that.
the top, yeah, it's so good. And then On Mars was my favorite art piece of his. Now in this case, all 3 games they're the same games. And they're pretty much in the same order. So Nemo's World is Born, On Mars are my favorite games with Ian O'Toole art. My first special mention is somebody that I hadn't heard of. I love his game, and his artwork stuck out to me. Let me see if I can get his name right without messing it up. It is Milon Vavron, I believe is how you pronounce his name. And he did the original art to the game Prophecy. So the old school action game Prophecy. His cover art, that one is always, it's very evocative. Pretty plain, not a lot going on, but that's what called me out to it. But he also did the art to Underwater Cities, and he did the cover for Lost Ruins of Arnak. So in order, it would be Lost Ruins of Arnak, the Underwater Cities cover, and then the Prophecy cover is my favorite. The games of his would be Lost Ruins of Arnak, Underwater Cities, and Prophecy, so the same 3 games. He's the last one that I did this for. These next 2, I just have their names. All of these people's names will be in our show notes. These next 2, the links that I have for them that are their names. I'm glad we brought this up, so I want to bring it up. It's going to be the links to their pages, to their personal art pages, even though they do have BGG pages. So like I said, we do like to try not to send you to places to buy things, but I really felt like this was worth it and warranted it. These guys do some amazing work. They're working as artists, and they do board game work, and I'm going to mess up both these names as well. So be sure to check the links. The first one is Antonus Pepperontoniu, and I know I'm messing that up. He's Greek, but he did Among the Stars. So if you don't remember the cover for Among the Stars, go look it up. It's amazing. He's also credited with 79 other games, of which you've heard of a few. Epic, the card game, and Hero Realms are another one that he's worked on. His stuff on Among the Stars is brilliant. The next guy also worked on Among the Stars, and this guy's stuff, I was trying to send him money, but I ran out of time. It was time for us to record the show tonight. I was trying to buy some of his art. This guy's first name is Odysseus. I'm pretty sure I got that right. Last name, I'm so sorry in advance. Stegmaier, maybe. At any rate, he's credited for Among the Stars and 50 other games. And one of them is a game I can't pronounce. It's Teotihuacan City of the Gods was the artwork from his. But anyway, I went and I looked these guys up. And just, I did it because, let's do this if you don't mind. Let's just hop into the next section.
Okay.
Where we were going to have an art discussion. We won't do a break. We'll just go into the art section. I thought about it in the grand scheme of things, man. Here in the U.S., when I came up, when I was, back in my formative years, when Milton Bradley was still a thing and Parker Brothers, they were separate before they were all bought, but they did all have the same thing, and then that is, back then in this country, culture-wise, neither the designer nor the artist were ever credited. I mean, you would have had to go and dig deep to find it. The corporate way was simply, we want to sell the product. So we didn't have a culture until the last 20, 25 years, maybe 30, I guess, or however long it's been since Catan got here with Klaus Teuber, of, hey, this designer is a person, and now they've kind of slowly been, climbing up the ladder of the consciousness of the gamer here in the U.S. Can't speak for anywhere else in the world, but here in the U.S., in my experience, we only have about 20, 25 years of caring, hey, who designed that? Well, artists are even further behind that.
Yeah.
But really shouldn't be. But we're just now kind of getting to the point with a few names, and the names we've mentioned most of them tonight probably, that are the biggest names. But as I just, pointed out with these last 2, there's so many working artists that are doing so much astounding work. So it's funny, we're kind of guilty of one of the things that I've always thought of, one of the things I wanted to address when we started the show, and that we don't really name the artists. We do have a habit. We try to name the designer as much as possible, but that's kind of indicative, of the whole thing. It's like, well, over here in the U.S., we don't really I don't really name the artist, but we definitely want to make sure that we start giving these people, their credit and their just due, because there's so much amazing work. I mean, think about people like Craig Van Ness and Rob Daviau. If Daviau hadn't left Hasbro, he'd still be there toiling in anonymity. Mm-hmm. I said Craig Van Ness, and I know I've said it before on the show, and those of you who know who he is really know him, and everybody else has no idea who I'm talking about. And this guy is one of the most talented game designers, in my opinion, that exists currently today. And he's happy where he is, designing how he is in the Hasbro house, but he's responsible for HeroScape. Mm-hmm. And again, he and Daviau worked together when they were there together at Hasbro. But again, like I said, that's kind of the corporate thing where they're like, I don't, his name's not on the box. His name's on the box now with Hasbro, which is pretty cool, but they don't really pump him up. So those are the designers, but we really should talk more about the artists, because this artwork is such a gateway into the game.
Absolutely. And honestly, artwork is, more often than not, it's the thing that draws you to the game, and typically it's one of the reasons you purchase a game.
Yep.
Is if the art, it's because when you pick up the box, very rarely are you able to identify, this is a type of game that I would like to play. Right. Based on the mechanics and all this, there's not usually not enough information on the box. Well, even on the box, it'll give you a brief overview or maybe some flavor text or something. Yep. But even not enough. But your buying choice is usually wrapped up in the cover of the box, as well as the components on the back. And, specifically now where cards are such a considerable portion of games because you can do so much with them, that art is so important. And for me, I would have to say, going even back to like what I said about Wingspan, art can actually, pun intended, color my view of a game, whether I like it or not.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so just a kind of a quick shout out to the game Canvas by Road to Infamy Games. I believe that's who did that. And now I'm going to make sure I have the artist. But they do they even take that to the next level. So the artist is Luan Hyun. And it's designed by Jeff Chen and Andrew Nerger. But they take that idea of like, okay, art is important. Let's have the player even create pieces of art, works of art that are beautiful and exciting. And so, art is so important to the gaming industry because very rarely, you look at chess, what sells a chessboard? No, well, not necessarily chess unless you're, but it's like, it's the ornate pieces. It's how beautiful are the pieces. And that's what people, and I don't know, I might be stretching there, but it seems like a valid tangent.
It's a very visual medium.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about board games. So, like you said, it's what gets you to buy it in the first place or pull it off the shelf. It can turn people off. You and I have had the discussion many times on the show about Ricky Sabi's art in the early Ascension games, that I absolutely love it. If I could find some of those prints, some of the ones that aren't quite as dark, not physically, but just from the subject matter, I would put him up in a heartbeat. I thought his art was very specific and very unique, but it turned off so many people. So like I said, it's very powerful.
Well, who did the art for Castles of Burgundy? Because numerous people say, Castles of Burgundy, such an amazing game. If only the art wasn't such and such. So Julian Devil and Harold Lexie. But so one of the biggest complaints about
Devil,
about Castles of Burgundy is that it's not a pretty game, but the game itself is fantastic. That's why you're seeing they had the Ravensburger had the reprint, and then now they have the deluxeified edition coming out.
Yeah, because I own the reprint. Which is.
But again, the whole point of the reprint was to upgrade the art. Because the game itself is solid. I
feel differently about that one. The art of it doesn't turn me off because of what it's doing and what it depicts. But I totally have heard those criticisms, and I understand them. I'm one of those that, because of what the art represents in this game, it doesn't bother me. Mm-hmm. The high up view, you're not down at bird's eye level, and it's kind of tough to do what you're doing and depict it from, overhead, looking down on it, and make it very expressive. That's a different game because they didn't want you to concentrate on that. Yeah. This one's about the colors and those numbers, really. It's not even about the artwork. No, I get, you're right, though. And it's funny that you mentioned him because in one of the games that I've got later that we're going to move into the next segment here in just a minute, Julian Delval did the art for it as well. And so it's a completely different situation from the Castles of Burgundy, at least the original, because I don't know if he's responsible for the new version. Let's see. Did he do the art on that one too? Doesn't say. Well, I don't have it in this listing. So the 2020 edition, I guess it was. But at any rate, let's go on and take a break. Just, guys, you get an opportunity, make sure you pay attention. If you like art, if you like any of the people that we've talked about, they'll be linked in the show notes. By all means, go and look them up. You're going to find some new games. You may find some new art for your home or for wherever it is that you need to put art up. New desktops. One of the guys sells stuff for everything. You can get a phone case, whatever it is, if you like their art. So by all means, look into it. The art is valuable here. It's very valuable. There's a lot of value here. There's some amazing artists doing some amazing work. Alex and I are going to take a short break. And then when we come back, we're going to get into the next couple of quick sessions. So we'll be right back.
And we're back. One last thing I kind of wanted to, I know we've sort of moved on, but I do want to spend a few minutes just discussing on the subject of art, how important good graphic design is. We take graphic design for granted in the board, in the board, actually, not even in just the board gaming arena. We take it for granted in media and from print to online to everything. Yeah. But a game that has good graphic design. So graphic design is the layout of the text, where the pictures are, borders, everything that just graphic design is the stuff that brings everything together. Mm-hmm. So and when a gorgeous art is met with intentional, well thought out, and artistic graphic design, you have something that's truly magical. I think of Marvel Champions. So they really ran with the whole comic book theme. So all of their borders, all of their text boxes, all of that has this idea of we're mimicking a comic book or a panel in a comic book. So how they divide cards, put text, all of that, it's unified in its understanding and the theming of the game. And then it also, therefore, it supports the art. It doesn't distract from it. And it puts all of the information, a good graphic design puts all the information in an easy to see space where that it also communicates when and how that information is to be used. And I go back to Lisboa, that whole blue border thing that it has.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. And the way that it doesn't overpower, yet it leads you into the next icon, because there's 1.5 billion icons on that in that game that you have to know. But that is the picture of graphic design that supports the art and in a way that is truly, truly beautiful. And I think that's where a lot of these startup board gaming companies that print 1 million minis on Kickstarter and all of this kind of stuff, I honestly think that's their biggest pitfall outside of poor rule books, because they don't have a publisher, not a publisher, an editor to edit the rule books, and they don't have a graphic designer to actually put information and images in a way that makes sense and is also beautiful and supportive of the art that they have. I think those are two of the big things that these new upstart board game companies. That's just, they don't have it. But that's because it's usually one or two designers who are kind of like building their passion project, and not a large group of like, oh, well, let's go specifically. We have the money. Let's go hire an editor. Let's go hire a graphic designer.
Woo.
So,
shots fired, man. Woo.
I'm just saying.
Alex done put y'all on notice.
Well, I mean, but that's the difference between like a Renegade. Renegade has that, like, you can tell they've put their, well, I say that, and then we played G.I. Joe, and ooh, buddy. I think that the editor's day off was on that one.
Man, we've gone there, but no, okay, man, no, I'm that's a nice coda to the artwork, and you're right, I agree with it. The graphic design stuff is extremely, extremely, extremely important. The segment that we want to jump into next is we just want to do something that we've done before, as Alex chuckles. And this is one where we just want to talk about, in the past we've gone at length, and we're going to kind of do a little quick hitter this time, and it's called The Name on the Box. And basically what we do, we wanted to talk about a designer, and we want to pick out one of our favorite games by that designer. Like I said, in the past, we'll use it again to talk at length, but tonight, or this episode, we just want to just put a name out there, put a game out there based on the designer. I will go first, and I wanted to get to something that I play, something that I enjoy that maybe we don't talk about a lot. I've probably mentioned it on the show, but I know we haven't talked about it a lot, and that's going to be, the designer is John Werner, and Werner, it is an R in there to make sure I didn't see the R for a second. And the game is Zombie State, Diplomacy of the Dead. And it is published by Zombie State Games, and it was released in 2010. Strangely enough, on the website, on BGG anyway, the art is uncredited. It does say NA. My box is still packed. It has not been unpacked, so I couldn't go and check the manual to see. Typically, those will have the artist in it, but not a graphical powerhouse there, but just a fun area control, old school game. The board is fixed; it never changes. You're fighting a zombie outbreak with the other players, and you can do rude things to your neighbors, or you can either help them or hurt them, and it's just fun. And it devolves into a stabby dice fest, and it's just a blast. It's old school mechanics, it's old school game, circa 2010. It feels like the era that it was created in, but it's good fun, and it's most likely out of print, but everyone where I've seen it, it's not super expensive. So if you like the zombie theme at all, you just want a good old, kind of at this point, older fashioned, fun game to throw some dice around and sit down and play with 3 or 4 players. You keep yourselves entertained. Zombie State, Diplomacy of the Dead by John Werner is my designer and game for this segment. Mr. Alex, who you got for us, man?
You know what? I'm gonna. We talked last week, or the last episode, about sort of my foray into Dungeons and Dragons, and it just brings me back to one of the first games I ever really played as a board gamer, and one that still is just a joy. But it's set in the D&D realm. It's called Lords of Waterdeep, and the designer is Peter Lee and Rodney Thompson. And artists, well, there's several artists connected. Actually, 29 artists, but I would assume that's because...
Well, it's got a few.
Yeah, it's because it's all different iconic D&D tropes and different things of that sort. But this game, and I'm looking here at Peter Lee. Peter Lee is kind of the main designer for the Dungeons and Dragons stuff. I was just introduced to Tyrants of the Underdark a couple of actually game days. And that's an absolute blast. They actually just reprinted that. But Peter Lee is the he did all like Wrath of Ashardalon. He did all the Dungeon Command stuff. So he is kind of like D&D's head, or actually Wizards of the Coast probably head board game designer. And so, but it is it's. Of course, if you've never played Lords of Waterdeep, it is one of the best, not area control, worker placement games. And the fact that it is not necessarily an economics game, it is more about influence and different things. It's so wonderful, so easy.
And I actually
to teach,
have not.
So thematic. You still have never played it?
Nope.
Wow. Oh, okay. That's going to be one of my goals for this year.
Oh, man, you got to get a copy first. How many times
Yeah.
have you owned it and got rid of it?
Actually, only once, but it was one of those that kind of went out when I didn't really know what I wanted in a game, and so I got rid of it several years ago. But it's still heavily in print.
Oh, yeah.
So it's easy to get your hands on a copy. It's a little harder to find its expansion, the Skullport expansion, but you'll enjoy either way. But there's. When I want to say it's a great game, but there's nothing like, you compare it to games now and you're like, oh, there's nothing special. But when back in 2012 when it came out, there wasn't a wealth of worker placement games, and it just did it so well. It
Certainly
just
not like
did
it. Yeah, no, I remember how popular it was, and it's one of those I just figured eventually I'd sit in front of it and just never did.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. So yeah, so that's Peter Lee, and then Rodney Thompson is again, I think he's just also a co-designer for not as many things, but still just in-house Wizard of the Coast. A lot of the different things there. But again, Tires of the Underdark is another fun area control game to check out. They did just reprint it, and so you don't have to spend an arm and a leg trying to get a copy of it. From both of those. But yeah, so that's my name on the box.
Super cool. Well, all right, man. Let's go on and move into our last segment after this super short break. And we're back. All right, Mr. Alex, let's go on and do one more little quick thing I want to do in preparation for the summer season coming, when we give you guys a nice game suggestion to go and pick up right then after the show. We want to give you one of those. It'll start a little bit early this year, and we want to give you one after this episode. So we're going to talk about a quick game, just give you the game title, run by your FLGS, pick it up. If you order online, go to the place you order online. Safely, you can pick these games up. They are definitely Spoken Token approved. You will enjoy them. Mr. Alex, what's your game for us, sir?
All right, my first game for the not Summer of Games suggestion would be the Red Cathedral from Devere Games by designer, and honestly the designers are Isra C. and Shay S. So they don't even really give you their full names. Artists are Kema Roman and Pedro Soto. This is a dice placing rondel tableau builder resource collection. It's a small box that packs a heck of a lot of game.
Nice.
That is easy to learn. This is in my top 10 favorite games of all time.
Nice.
But again, you can find this in a lot of places for under $40. It's a small box, but it in a small footprint on the table. But it is fan-stinking-tastic.
Good deal. Awesome. All right, mine I've talked about before, but with some recent acquisitions on my part and just where the game sits right now is so good. And that is going to be Res Arcana. And this one is designed by Thomas Lehman and published by Sandcastle Games. It was released in 2019, and the art is from Julian Delval, I guess is his name. And I love the art in this one. I think it's so evocative. But I've got both of the expansions, 1 and 2, the one adding the dragons, the second one adding the pearls, and it's so good. So you can still get this one. It's widely available everywhere as well. You don't have to have those expansions. They are both so good, though. But get this one. Be prepared to have a great time. Whether you draft the cards or not, I prefer not drafting them. Just dealing the cards and going with what you got. It's such a unique challenge. You get an opportunity to build the engine and go with it. Quick hit, this one is also on Board Game Arena. So if you want to go over there and play it digitally, maybe with some people in distance, you can do that. But the physical version is not that expensive either, and it is so good. Again, that is Res Arcana by Thomas Lehman, published by Sandcastle Games, released in 2019 with art by Julian Delval. Go and get it. You will not be disappointed. Mr. Alex, we've reached that time, sir.
Wow.
Look at that. Alex got to do the wow. And it is a wow because, wow, there have been a lot of challenges. And we thank you all so much for spending time with us. We've got a busy summer coming up. We're really excited about that and excited about bringing you more coverage on games than we ever have before, which is pretty cool. We'll talk more about that as we get closer to it. But for now, we want you to have a great time. And we want you to keep going, keep gaming. I don't know. Alex is giving me hand signals. Apparently, I give directions way better than I take them.
This is true. All right, so for the Spoken Token, I am Alex Wallace saying, keep playing.
And this is Larry Neal saying, keep communicating.
This has been the Spoken Token Podcast. If you'd like to interact with us, please contact us through email at thespokentokenpodcast@gmail.com, on Instagram at The Spoken Token Podcast, on Twitter at The Spoken Token, or on Facebook at The Spoken Token Podcast. And you can reach us through our BGG Guild, number 2656.
You are listening to a Pod Studio One Podcast Network podcast. Find more great podcasts at www.podstudio1.com.